Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Angryaa. Today I'm going to be giving you a brief review of the new Ascendancy classes, one by one. The first class I'm going to be reviewing is one of my favorites, of course. It's the Necromancer class, one of the 3 classes that will be available to Witch when she ascends by running through the labyrinth in the new Ascendancy expansion that's coming early next year. Now, I'm going to go one by one over these passives. We're going to take a look at them, and I'm going to give you my analysis according to the theorycraft we know currently in Path of Exile as to what is good, what is bad, and what are the implications of these abilities. So, the first ability we're going to look at here is Mistress of Sacrifice. What? This is amazing. It's probably the best 2 points out of all of the subclasses. I'm not even kidding, right? Like, if you take a moment to really think about like the potential of this ability, it's crazy. I'll read it here. It says 20% increased skill effect duration, not bad, especially nice for SRS. But the biggest thing comes now is your offering skills also affect you. Unbelievable. This is going to provide so much flexibility and so much versatility and most importantly clear speed for any character that picks up the Necromancer tree, particularly, well, Necromancers, Summoners, and people who might be doing Summon Raging Spirits, which is kind of like a summonable. No, maybe, not really. Yeah, you get the idea. Anyway, the main thing about this Mistress of Sacrifice ability is if you take a look at something like Flesh Offering, you'll notice that it offers about 30% movement speed, cast speed, and attack speed. Now normally this is just to your minions, but now that it affects you, you're moving like lightning and you're casting like lightning. This is going to be an unbelievable passive for Summon Raging Spirit specs, because now you're going to be moving around maps lightning fast, further increasing your clear speed. But also what it's going to be doing is allowing you to cast faster, which means pooping out more SRS. Pooping out more SRS means more DPS. So it's a mixture of speed and DPS, a huge increase for just 2 points. But even for a classic summoner, one of the issues with a classic summoner is that they are forced to use Bones of Ulla, because Bones of Ulla give an additional Spectre, which is a huge DPS increase, as well as +1 zombie. But one of the issues with Bones of Ulla is it only has 10% movement speed. So now, with this new ability, you can bump up your movement speed to 40% by keeping Flesh Offering up, buffing your minions already, but now buffing yourself. But that's not all that this passive allows you to achieve, and that alone is amazing. But you also can gain the benefit of Bone Offering. Now, Flesh Offering and Bone Offering can't be run simultaneously before you get any fancy ideas. However, Bone Offering is still really useful if you're a bit under-geared in an area, or you're doing very challenging content, and you're not interested in clear speed, you're just interested in not dying, especially in hardcore. So, what does this allow you to do? You're doing like a Zeri, and you pop a Bone Offering, you keep it up, your minions become really tanky, and you become really tanky. Bone Offering is providing about 30% block and spell block. That's huge. And hell, there could be like a kind of a theory-crafted build with Summoners or SRS where you cap your block by using Bone Offering and other block passives. But I think the coolest combo for Bone Offering is going to be a cast when damage taken setup. I think cast when damage taken plus Bone Offering means normally plus Desecrate means that like normally you could just be running Flesh Offering for fast clear speed, but if anything gets past your minions and hits you in the face, well now suddenly the Bone Armor comes up and you have amazing block chance. Also imagine combining this with Rumi's Concoction. Now, this little flask here gives you a whole bunch of block, and I think it'll combine very, very well with that, especially since you'll be feeding off the spell block of Bone Offering. Okay, so the next passive we have here, just moving around to the right, is Beacon of Corruption. 20% increased chaos damage, 15 chaos resist. Minions have 15% chaos resist. And your minions spread a caustic cloud on death, dealing 10% of their maximum life as chaos damage per second. I'm not convinced. I understand what this passive is trying to do. They're trying to make like a kind of minion instability ×2 keystone. Unfortunately, minion instability is complete trash. I've never seen a good fast clearing build and endgame content that uses minion instability. It has some situational uses in PvP and for leveling, but as an endgame keystone, it's awful. So you know what awful is times 2? Still awful. I really think that this is a terrible keystone, and I think pretty much no one's going to take it except for like a gimmick build that's not going to be very effective. So yeah, it's bad. Moving on. Next, going down, we're going to have Fleshbinder. Oh man, check this out. You and your minions have 1% additional physical damage reduction for each zombie you control. Man, it's just so good. Think about it, like one of the biggest weakness of summoners is physical damage. They don't have many good ways of mitigating physical damage. And this gives you an excellent way of mitigating physical damage. So it kind of shores up one of the greatest weaknesses out of for summoners, and probably for SRS as well. Now, if you actually analyze this whole tree, besides Mistress of Sacrifice, there's not that many passives that SRS can really take that will help them out. So, because Fleshbinder is actually so good and 10%, because you can get around 8 to 10 zombies with a summoner, you're getting 8 to 10% physical damage reduction with Fleshbinder. What that means is that SRS might actually be encouraged to run a zombie meat shield wall, because they can combine the meat shield wall with Fleshbinder to get a nice, solid additional amount of physical damage reduction. This will also stack with a flat physical reduction of a Chaos Golem's aura. So a classical summoner could be running like 10 zombies with a Chaos Golem, and now they're sitting at a sweet 14% flat physical damage reduction, which is really powerful. So yeah, I really like this passive. For 2 points, it's really solid, and a fantastic boon to summoner. Next up, this is probably going to be my favorite passive. It's Soul Weaver. I mean, you just got to read it, right? It's just the numbers buff, but it's a fantastic one. Spectres have 100% increased maximum life. Okay, wow. And 100% increased damage. So if your Spectres were dying in maps, or you had any issues with their survivability, it's probably going to be long gone now. And 100% increased damage. Whoa! Like, you could link 4 or even 5 multiplicative damage modifiers, and those will multiply that 100% increased damage, and your Spectres are going to do crazy damage. Like, when I look at something like my high level classical summoner that's running 5 Revenant Spectres on a 6 link, being able to take Soul Weaver is going to be an enormous increase to clear speed. And not only that, what I think is really interesting about Soul Weaver is because it's increasing the life of your Spectres by 100%, it's going to open up more Spectre options than summoners normally have available. There's really good Spectres out there, like Fire Alchemists, or maybe Chaos Bears, or maybe Discharger melee mobs that can do a lot of damage, but because they're so squishy, no one really uses them as Spectres, because, you know, mapping with a Spectre and having it die during the map is really annoying. But now that you can, like, practically double their life, maybe those Spectres will be viable. So I like the fact that it's not just a huge numbers buff, but it's also perhaps going to add some extra variety. Finally, well, not finally, we've got 2 more. So the next one we have actually is Commander of Darkness. Really interesting 2-pointer that doesn't link with anything. It says here, auras you cast gain 4% increased damage to you and your allies, and auras you cast gain 2% increased attack and cast speed to you and your allies. The first thing you're thinking of, Aura Butt. And you're right, this would be a great passive for Aura Butt, but look at the other passives in the tree. Nothing else is really good for an Aura Butt, so you're taking an entire Ascendancy class for 1 2-pointer, and then nothing else is good. I mean, Mistress of Sacrifice doesn't buff your party, it only buffs yourself, so, you know, it's actually not that great for an Aura Butt because of the other options in the tree are lackluster. So what could it be really used for? Well, I think most people won't take this, but there will be a few builds that will find this very useful, and one of them I think is perhaps a low-life SRS that runs a whole ton of auras by reserving their life, and they have like a Shavs and a ton of energy shield, and suddenly it's pretty good because your SRS are, you know, attacking and doing more damage, and that's pretty rad. And like maybe a summoner, like an Aura Butt summoner that's running 4 or 5 auras could get some use out of this, but I think if you're an Aura Butt summoner, you probably want to pick up Soul Weaver for more Spectre damage, so I think it's honestly a really niche use here. And maybe there's better classes for a support Aura Butt, because Commander of Darkness is the only good thing working for you here. Finally, we've got Spirit Eater. Spirit Eater says, you and your minions gain 30% increased damage for 4 seconds when you consume or destroy a corpse. That sounds nice, you know, like 30% increased damage. It's not a multiplicative modifier, but 30% ain't bad. But then you look at the duration, it's 4 seconds. 4 seconds? Like, come on, that's... Like, are you going to be, like, spamming Flesh Offering like every 3-4 seconds just to keep this 30% buff up? That's only 2 minion damage nodes. I'm not really convinced by this passive. I think it's really weak. I think some SRS builds will probably pick it up because there's not... Like, the, you know, SRS builds are probably not going to be running Spectres, so they don't have much else to take. But it's pretty underwhelming. So overall, what are my feelings of the Necromancer tree? I think it's really cool. There's a lot of strong passives in there, like Fleshbinder, Soul Weaver, and Mistress of Sacrifice. All fantastic, all really cool. The rest of the options are either niche or kind of dud. But overall, it's a really cool buff to summoners, and my favorite is honestly Mistress of Sacrifice, because it allows us to sort of change the dynamic of a summoner, and now you're not just buffing your minions, you're buffing yourself, and I think that's really cool. Overall, I would give a Necromancer a 6 out of 8. I think it's a pretty solid, good subclass. It's not ridiculously overpowered, it's not game-breaking, but it's not weak at all. It's super solid and strong, and I think people will have a lot of fun playing it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Angryaa. Cheers.